Last week, Australia was at the centre of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, IT outages in global history. A software update caused millions of computers to fail, bringing businesses to a standstill. At the centre of it all is a company called Crowdstrike and their security software. Crowdstrike President Mike Sentonas joins me now to discuss. Mike, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Mike, millions of people around the world are hearing this name Crowdstrike for the first time. So just quickly before we unpack what happened last week, explain to us what Crowdstrike is.
Crowdstrike's a cybersecurity company that is used by organisations around the world. We protect against some of the most complex attacks in the world, whether it's nation states targeting governments, targeting enterprises, or e-crime actors. And I'd just like to start off by saying, we deeply apologise. I personally apologise for what happened. We understand the disruption and the distress that we caused a lot of people. And firstly, I think it's important to say we put out an update, which we do regularly and we've been doing for over a decade. And we got this very wrong. And we understand how it happened. And certainly I can't apologise enough, and we're working with organisations to get things up and running and get people remediated as quickly as possible.
So an update caused the outage. How did that happen? How does a simple update, which as you say, you would regularly do, given the world that you live in with security software, how does it happen? How does it break everything?
Yeah, in the cybersecurity world, I mean, we're defending against attacks that are coming very, very quickly. And we see the people behind these attacks coming up with novel techniques all the time, where they're looking to find ways to make changes to those techniques so they can be successful in carrying out attacks, whether they're trying to create an opportunity to steal information, or whether they're trying to capture whatever money they can from, whether it's a person, a business, or a government. So our industry has to rapidly respond, and we're always looking to see if we can put out new techniques, new updates. The update that we put out, obviously, as I said, we got wrong with some logic in that update. We've been using that technique for the better part of a decade. And in this case, we made that mistake, which we have clarified what it was. It certainly wasn't a cyber attack. Mm-hmm. And I would say that we've learnt a lot, and ultimately, we have to get better, and we let our customers down, and that's something that we have to address.
So if you do it regularly, on a literally regular basis, was this update not checked prior to being rolled out?
Well, as I mentioned, we do those updates all the time. So the technique that we use, we've been using for a decade, and that means we've stress tested it many times. When we do regular updates to the products, we do testing. And one of the things that we have to spend time on is work out what went wrong. And clearly, obviously, something did. We identified what the issue was very quickly. We stopped that particular file from being propagated. But unfortunately, a lot of people around the world did get access to that file. And what it did is it exposed a logic flaw, which ended up in what the industry knows of and the experience that people had, which is a blue screen of death. We put in a fix very quickly, but that fix is to the file. It obviously didn't fix the machines that were impacted in the field. And we're now trying to remediate and help our customers get up and running as quickly as possible.
So would this update been run on a computer at Crowdstrike before it was deployed?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have those processes, and as I said, something failed, and I want to point that out. We got it wrong. We're trying to work out how we remediate, but there's going to be a lot of learnings, and we're going to look at what happened, why it failed. The fix itself that we put out didn't present itself, otherwise we wouldn't have put it out. And we have clearly identified where that issue was. That's how we could fix it very, very quickly. But it exposed a logic flaw, it exposed the bug in the product, which we have to go and clearly fix. And we've got some ideas on what we do to make the platform more resilient in a situation where you do have a flaw. Whilst they can be very rare in a platform like ours, what it has showed us is when it does happen, the impact can be severe. So building in a concept of resilience by design, I think is going to be really important. And it's going to be one of the things that we really focus on, given so many people rely on us.
Do you have a sense of how many endpoints or computers were affected?
Look, we've seen a lot of reports out there. Initially, people were talking about approximately 8.5 million machines that were impacted. We are in a remediation phase today, so we've been working very heavily. We've been doing that obviously over the weekend, but we've come out with some new techniques that we've been testing, which has great success, and we're finding people are getting up and running. So that number is dropping down a lot. But I want to clearly say we will keep working until we have zero machines impacted by this particular issue.
Do you think there's a fundamental flaw in the concept of rolling live updates like this in an enterprise situation where the IT department hasn't pre-checked something that's being deployed across potentially thousands of their own computers? Do you think that will need to change and organisations will essentially want to vet the updates before they get deployed?
Well, a lot of our updates are actually vetted by our customers, as is quite standard in the industry. When you put out a new, what we call an endpoint, a sensor, which is the software that gets installed on a computer, a lot of testing goes into place. We obviously do a lot of testing with that, and our customers do a lot of testing. They have the ability to test it on a small group of machines. When they're comfortable, they put it out. We put out quite regular updates, which are a little bit larger. They go again through a lot of testing, and customers have the ability to stagger those rollouts. But then we have to talk about content updates. As I talked about, an attacker will change their tradecraft constantly. We live in a world with AI. The concept is there where we could see attackers that have the ability to rapidly evolve their attacks. And some days you may see over 500,000-600,000 attacks. So basically what that means is the end user and the companies that they work with to provide protection have to rapidly respond. And that's ultimately the challenge that we have here. These issues, whilst they were quite common many, many years ago, are becoming more and more rare. But again, we saw a situation where we got it wrong. It's not good enough. So we do have to go away and have a think about what other approaches, what techniques could we use where we can create a more resilient platform. We can give customers the ability to quickly respond. But importantly, we got to acknowledge that we had a software bug, and we need to find a more elegant way so that if there is a coding error, it doesn't have the impact that we saw.
There's been a lot of talk about the interconnectivity of our lives and our reliance on computers, and obviously that's become quite obvious to us all. Do you think it's essentially a risk we have to accept both as consumers and as businesses that there may be now and then failures of some sort, not just with your software, but with others, because this is a fast-paced world that we have to live in with regards to the security threats, let alone other updates that are required? Do we essentially have to accept some form of risk in a technology world?
Look, I think it would be easy for me to say, yes, we have to. But if I kind of think about it as a technologist for the last 2.5 decades, we should actually think about ways of creating more resilient applications and more resilient hardware. Issues like this happen all the time. And I think, as I said, if you go back some years ago, you would see more and more of these types of issues. And as an industry, we've gotten a lot better at trying to work out how you address it. But you see flaws, whether it's in a car, whether it's in software like ours, and people, the manufacturers that are building these products, are trying to iterate very quickly and find ways to really rapidly respond. So when the issues do happen, you limit the radius of an attack like this, an issue like this, I should say. We got it wrong whilst we're remediating, and whilst we're in a phase where we're thinking about root cause analysis. We know what the issue was, and it gives us an ability to really quickly understand how we can mitigate this from happening in the future. And that's going to be the phase that we go through, fix all of the customers and think about how we create a platform that doesn't have this sort of issue moving forward. From
a human perspective, I assume there's individuals, one or many, that wrote the code and deployed the code. How are they doing?
Look, we feel terrible. People trust CrowdStrike. We're used by so many people and so many organizations around the world. And they come to CrowdStrike because we stop the attacks. We stop the breaches that the adversaries use. And they use us and they trust us. And the 8.5 years that I've been at CrowdStrike, this is not something that I've had to do. that to me is irrelevant. We let one customer down, or we let a lot of customers down. That just shouldn't happen. And we're going to work hard to gain people's trust. And I think it's important to keep focused on that phase. And then, the most important thing is our customers. And, we're looking after our staff, obviously. But the customer focus is the one that I want to talk about.
We've had estimations of losses of $200 million in New South Wales. I saw one report today of $1 billion around the world. You've recently celebrated being included in the S&P 500. How does Crowdstrike survive this as a business?
Look, that conversation will be one that we talk about, where people want to talk about losses, and that conversation has to happen. But the focus is on the remediation piece. I'm very positive that we've moved into a different phase in terms of remediation. We've been doing a lot of testing over the weekend. Obviously, the focus was to look at who needs to be remediated first, what countries and time zones should we be thinking about. We spent a lot of time working with the Australian government, working with organisations across Australia and New Zealand, given the time zone, to make sure that come Monday morning, people were able to operate. And I'm quite positive about some of the techniques that we discovered that allows us to rapidly respond and get people up and running very, very quickly. The other conversations have to happen, and they will come, and we'll make sure that we continue to support and look after our customers.
All the questions in the last 24 hours, though, have been around either compensation or litigation. You're obviously prepared for that as the next phase of this?
Absolutely. And as I said, those conversations have to happen and will happen. That phase will come after we get our customers remediated.
What is your message to your customers?
Look, where I started, we got it wrong, and I can't apologise enough. And I think, that's important. When these sorts of things happen, it's important to acknowledge that firstly, this wasn't a cyber attack. This was a mistake that we made, and we will learn from that mistake. We've already started putting in process to understand how to ensure that doesn't happen again. And our commitment to our customers is to work very closely with them, to demonstrate to them we understand what happened, to demonstrate to them and help them understand what exactly went wrong in this particular case. But I think the important part is really spending time to demonstrate how we make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's going to be the focus well after we have remediated every impacted organisation or government department.
I guess your biggest challenge is earning their trust again.
It is, but hopefully one of the things that people remember is that for a decade or more of CrowdStrike Falcon platform being used, we've protected those organisations against some pretty complex attacks, which could have been quite devastating. But the reality is, as I keep saying, we got it wrong, and I think your question is really valid. You got to demonstrate how you win that trust. And the way that you do that is by being extremely transparent. And we're trying to do that. It's a balance, obviously, and certainly we haven't gotten it right throughout the last couple of days. And what I mean by that is, we're trying to put out statements to say this is what happened. These are some of the challenges. And maybe a couple of the words we could have used certainly could have been different. One of the things that I'm disappointed about is we said, we put out a fix. Reality is, I would have loved if we said we put out a content fix, because a fix means the customer is operational. So we'll get better. We'll learn. We'll partner with our customers. But one of the things that I'd love to call out is the industry that's worked really hard to come together and get people up and running. And I think that there's a lot of great partnerships going on, and our customers working together to help each other out.
Do you have a sense and an understanding, or just an appreciation for the fact that at high levels in the C-suites of business around Australia, there's going to be conversations about looking at your clauses and whether there's an out clause for the contracts that you might have because of this failure, that some businesses might jump on and look to make alternate arrangements?
Well, I've spent a weekend working with our internal team to get a fix out there. And I've been on calls with customers around Australia and around the world, talking to them about what happened, how we helped them, and trying to give them an understanding of what happened here and how we work on it. We've got calls set up where we'll continue to talk about the learnings and what we find, and we'll keep doing that. And our entire executive team is doing that. Our CEO's been talking to a lot of customers as well. We want to get people up and running, and I think that has to be the focus, and all the other conversations will follow.
Is your mantra going forward that we can't let it happen again?
That's our mantra every day. Our goal is to protect our customers. I mean, the mission of our company is to stop breaches and to stop attackers doing bad things to our customers. We made a mistake here, and the goal is to ensure that never happens. And the learning, software flaws will happen and errors will happen, but we have to be smarter at ensuring that they don't have the impact that this particular issue had.
Just finally, circling back to my original question around people who didn't know what CrowdStrike is, they're some of the people impacted who aren't your customers. What's your message to those people that couldn't board a flight or couldn't buy their groceries on Friday here in Australia?
Yeah, I truly apologise. I mean, on behalf of the company, but personally, I apologise. I understand the impact that it's had. I've spoken to a lot of people that have been impacted. And, at the end of the day, we're going to do everything we can to help everybody get remediated, all of our customers that have been impacted, and try to demonstrate, how we can get everybody up and running and the learnings that we have there. But I couldn't say it enough. We got it wrong. We have to do better. We'll learn, and we'll demonstrate that, what we're going to do moving forward to ensure that this doesn't happen again.
Mike, thanks for your time.
Thank you.